probably type tonight, right? But we'll try. Let us know if you can't hear us, and we'll use the mic. Welcome. Thanks for coming. This is our, well, I'm Tom Brezsny. Welcome to Sereno. Just because I always forget, I just wanted to introduce Natasha McGay, who is helping us put this on. Daniel Wolford in the back. Our Dax Nolenberger. And I'm Tom. Thank you for coming. This is the fourth in the series, so kind of the first part of the series that we put together at the beginning of the year. And we started with the septic ordinance, which is remarkably similar in many ways to what we'll be talking about tonight. We went on to talk about sort of some of the things that are happening with ADUs and junior ADUs and SB9 and lot splits and duplexes on lot splits, and that's kind of a complicated set of scenarios, but we'll come back to that in a couple of months and break it down and do more of a step-by-step process for people who are thinking about doing an ADU, just kind of step one, step two, step three, so it's a little easier to follow. We did talk last week on fire insurance and some of the significant issues that are upon us with the costs and the affordability, cancellation of policies, what that's all looking like and what where that's going. I learned a lot from that talk. In part because it's changing rapidly, and all of us have to keep track of those changes because it's going to be different in 6 months than it is now, and some of the costs are very, very significant. And tonight we're going to talk about the Sewer Lateral Ordinance, which came into effect actually right around when COVID was happening. And I'll introduce Mike and Jennifer in a minute. But as Mike was saying, in 2020 when the sewer lateral regs came into being, it was a pattern was started, which is we enact the regulations and the guidelines, and then we sort of go back afterwards and figure out how to make them work after they're already in place. So we've had almost 3 years now of figuring out the sewer lateral regs, and things have adjusted, some things changed that for the better, and made it a little easier for people to work with those regulations and for homes to be able to transact. So we're going to take a break from these talks. After tonight, we're going to come back in March with a little bit of a different focus. We've got a series of talks on sort of all the questions that people are wrestling with downsizing. And so I think many of you in this room are about my age, and we can all sort of relate to the idea of retirement, downsizing. What do you do with your stuff? It's a huge question. Capital gains, Prop 19, property tax transfers, how retirement and downsizing overlaps with your estate planning and some of your legacy desires with your family and kids. So we're going to try and over 3 or 4 weeks in March, we're going to try and cover a lot of that and help people kind of get a basic map together of the questions and what they need to think about and work on to be able to have a smoother downsize transition. So after that, we're going to come back with a series more of informational things for people. We're trying to help you, people in the community, kind of up their homeowner IQ and sort of get ahead of the learning curve on all of these things that just keep coming down the pipe, no pun intended, because they're going to keep coming, and we just have to stay on our toes in terms of learning about things that are happening that are going to affect our largest asset and the places that are the century places of our lives. So that's our commitment. Just wanted to pick your brain as a group, just quickly to see if you have any feedback. We love feedback. Would it be more helpful to have these kinds of talks at 6 o'clock at night or rather than 7 o'clock? Anybody vote for the 6 o'clock? Okay. Everybody else 7? Yeah, it's a kind of a catch. It's an odd thing these days. How about, do you feel that the ability to do a hybrid meeting where people can join with a virtual link is a helpful thing? Is that a positive thing? Okay. Yeah, in conjunction, kind of a hybrid thing. It's, we are recording these as well, so the virtual thing. It's what we all learned in COVID. It's not the same as being somewhere in person. It's not as engaging. It's not as lively. You don't have the same interaction. But that said, the virtual platforms are helpful for some, and some people, it's problematic for them to come downtown at night as well. Yes. They are accessible. If you just email me or call me, I'm happy to send you the links to those. Yeah, we're going to keep. We're learning as we go. We're trying to refine it as well. And we also have information printouts from each of the last 3 talks along the back there. If anybody wants to peruse and help yourself, that's great. And if anybody has any burning ideas for issues related to home ownership that would be helpful to you, please corner us, let us know, email me, call me, just send me a text, whatever. We'd love to get that feedback. That's helpful. Yes.
I think you were already talking about one, and that's the gas to electric conversion, etc.
Yeah, we're gonna. It's coming. It was funny. I hadn't thought much about it until about 3 weeks ago, and Mike happened. I was talking to Mike on the phone. He happened to mention it to me, and ever since he mentioned it to me, wouldn't you know it? Almost every other day now, there's an article somewhere or something, some news story about that, and all the questions that are arising. And of course, in Texas, it was what did Governor Abbott was. Let's see. You can't take away my
gas oven,
my firearms, my freedom, or my gas oven, or something like that. So, I think that the issue is going to build in scope and nature, but yes, it's something that's going to be real important to all of us as homeowners. So we will come back with that as soon as there's a little bit more concrete information. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. It's a huge aspect.
That's the linchpin.
Yeah, in a way, all the way it's bubbling up in the news is great because it starts to bring out all this other. Yeah.
Get a card from her, and we can talk about it later. I'm happy to answer questions. Just not.
So tonight we're going to talk about sewer lateral regulations and requirements and guidelines, and I'm happy to introduce Mike Murrow and Jennifer Galvin from Bellows Plumbing. And they're not here to they're here to share information. They're not going to sell you on Bellows Plumbing. I will unsolicited say that for my team, Brezsny team, we work with a lot of different vendors. I don't know of any other vendors that are as responsive, as communicative, and as service oriented as their company is, and it's greatly appreciated. Yeah. So, and the fact that Mike and Jennifer are here to sort of share information, at night. I'm sure you had a long day and in the trenches, so to speak, and we would appreciate you coming out and sharing the info.
No, we appreciate being here and glad to be here.
Yeah. So we have So if you want to use this, you can. If not,
Probably pretty good. Everybody can hear me? Yeah?
and the copy of the slides is on your chair. So if you want to follow along. Oh, and I do want to say hello to the growing number of people that have joined us on our virtual link. And what I'm going to say is that you're missing all this incredible wine that we were serving here and the gourmet hors d'oeuvres. It's just not the same at home. But I guess the fact that you can stay in your pajamas makes it kind of evens that out a little bit.
Tom, is it okay if I stay standing?
Absolutely.
'Cause if I sit, I can't think.
Yeah.
So, okay, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna go through a very brief overview of sewer lateral ordinance and all that stuff. If you have questions, write them down. And as long as you've got questions, I'll answer them the whole night. Okay, so we'll try to get through this. No puns intended, but what to expect when you're inspecting. Let's see if we can get through this. So as Tom said, my name is Mike Murrow. This is Jennifer Galvan. She works for me at the shop, does a lot of these inspections. We're with Bellows Plumbing. At Bellows, we're a family-owned, operated company founded in 1984. We hold licenses in plumbing, HVAC, electrical, as well as having a general engineering Class A license. We serve all of Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, San Bernardino County, Santa Clara County, Marin, and Sonoma County. So what that really means is if your faucet drips, we can take care of that. If you got a light switch that flickers, we can take care of that. If your furnace knocks and bangs, we can take care of that. You need slurry seal on your driveway, we can take care of that. And of course, generators, electrification, all that other stuff. And sewer laterals. So I'm a graduate of the University of Kansas and been working in the trade since I was 16. Graduated from the University of Kansas, messed around for a little while, and then realized instead of getting a master's, I could just work in the trades and actually make real money. And so that's what I started doing. Been working for Bellows for 12 years. Started out as a plumber, working on HVAC. Moved into management for about 7 years ago. Right now, I manage operations and sales, which is basically I have to put up with Jennifer. And then I come to meetings like this. I work with HOAs, property managers, cities, municipalities, representing our company. And every once in a while, I show up at your house. So let's get started here. So first question is, what is a sewer lateral? Okay. In your home, and let's think of it. There's a lot of ways to think of a home, but let's think about the stereotypical single family dwelling out on the street here. We're not talking about an HOA, an apartment, a condo, or anything like that. Okay, we can get into the things related to that, but for our purposes, let's just start there. That's the simplest way. In your home, your toilet, your sinks, your showers, your laundry, all that goes down the building drain. Okay, that's separate from the water coming in. And so that building drain, that's the portion under the house, either in the slab, in the crawl space, or whatever. Once it leaves the footprint of the building, it is now considered the lateral. So on your sewer lateral, you have what's considered the upper lateral, the lower lateral, and this is a dinosaur. So on your upper lateral, this is the portion that's in the private property. The lower lateral is the portion that's in the public right-of-way. Okay, typically that's under the sidewalk and street, but some places like in Capitola, it might run to your backyard. In that case, the lower lateral is the portion that's in the encroachment or the easement that the county, city, or whoever has. So upper versus lower. We'll get into this in a little bit. So county Santa Cruz ordinance highlights. So before we get into this, I should have had another slide here. There are 4 ordinances in our county. Okay. There are 5 sanitation districts in our county. Scotts Valley, Santa Cruz City, Santa Cruz County, City of Watsonville, and South Lapleta. Scotts Valley does not have an ordinance yet. I check monthly with them because it is a state mandated thing. So eventually they're going to have to. So we're going to talk about the 4 in our county. They're also in City of Morgan Hill, City of Carmel, Monterey. Jen does all these, so she'll know more than I will at that point. East Bay Mud. They're all over the place. But we're in Santa Cruz County, so we'll talk about those 4. The 4 are, like I said, County of Santa Cruz, City of Santa Cruz, City of Watsonville, South Lapleta. And so the ordinance that you fall under is determined by who treats your sewage, right? So whose sewage pipe does your sewage drain into? That's the easiest way to answer that question. Not where you get your water from, not where your address is even. Where does your sewage drain into? And so first one is the county. We'll go over some highlights here. That program started January 1st of 2019. The ordinance applies to the entire lateral, both the upper and lower. It is transferable, so once you've done the required inspection, you can then transfer any required repairs to your buyer, or if you're a buyer, you can accept the requirement of those repairs. But at the end of the day, an inspection has to happen of that sewer lateral prior to the transfer of the property. And we'll talk more about that. I just want to get through the highlights. A video and the reporter uploaded to a Box account. That's a third-party cloud sharing account that the county has set up, where they can see the videos, they can see our report, and all documentation with the sewer ordinance goes through that. It's all digital, okay? And so they'll come back after reviewing it, provide their findings, permits are on there, and everything else. One of the requirements is that there's a clean out within 2 feet of the exit of the building, although they don't enforce that very strictly, right? They're pretty lenient on that, as they are with most of the ordinance itself. They're pretty lenient. There's no standardized grading system. In other words, what happens is we go out, we make this recording with a sewer camera. Jim's got one in her truck if you want to see it later. Record the sewer. We fill out their report. We submit it to them. We've notated any potential defects, type of pipe, draw a little map. They review it, and then they'll come back and say, this looks good, or fix this and that. That's typically what happens. The county has the final say on what work is required. Okay, and that'll make sense as we go through the other ones. But they have the final say on what you need to fix on that sewer lateral, if anything. Most of the time, it's a spot repair or two. Go dig a spot up in the yard, fix a joint. NASSCO certified county staff. So this NASSCO is a pipeline certification. It's an international certification. She has it. I have it. A couple people at the shop have it. Everybody at the county that looks at these has it. They review the videos. They make a final call on required repairs. Video inspections within the last 20 years satisfy the requirements. If you've done an official inspection that's been submitted to the county and they've seen it, good for 20 years, right? So if you're about to buy a home, it was sold last year and the inspection was done and you have that paperwork, you don't have to do it all again. It's covered, at least in the county's eyes. Private laterals must be cleaned every 18 months. There's an asterisk there because that's written into the ordinance, but the county doesn't really know how to enforce that or what they really mean by that. That's a holdover, and I'm not picking on the county. The original ordinance goes back to 2007. It used to be under community development. And I'm a nerd. I read that stuff. And I've known it's been there for years. Didn't do anything about it. They hadn't done anything about it. It was one blurb. And that part was in there. Oh, private laterals have to be cleaned every so many years. The problem is they haven't defined whether that private lateral is your lateral for your house or an HOA's private collection system lateral, or the lateral going to the septic system. So this is not enforced. But just know it's written in there. There is no incentive program. In other words, they don't give you rebates for any repairs you've done. Okay? Again, I'm going fast. We're going to get to the meat of it. If you have questions, write them down.
Hey, Mike, what about a proof of receipt if someone says 7 years ago, I had the whole thing redone, here's the receipt?
Good question. I'll answer that real quick, but moving forward, write all those questions down. You'll have to demonstrate with your permits that the entire lateral is replaced. Okay, City of Santa Cruz highlights. I don't know why that's in a different font. The program started July 1st, 2019. Now listen, here's where it gets different. The plumber, so Jen, myself, someone from another company on an approved list, comes out and inspects, grades, and then gives a pass-fail of that lateral. There is no oversight from the City of Santa Cruz. So plumber looks at it and says, well, I've got a car payment. This is a failing lateral. Here's a bid. Right? That's what happens. Nobody oversees it. No one says yay or nay. And then city does not review the videos. For escrows, the city does provide a certification of compliance after required repairs. Your plumber who does the inspection, we never see that part of it. We turn our report and our pass fail into the city, and then the homeowner, your agent, whatever, you have to go to the city and get that from them. Video inspections within the last 10 years satisfy the requirement. Okay? Again, has to be an official inspection though. Has to be done by a certified person, official report, turned in, city would have record of it. Private laterals must be cleaned every 2 to 5 years. Same thing applies. Not currently enforcing that. They don't really know what to do with it. There's a whole other aspect of these ordinances that apply to HOAs. They're kind of pushing to look into that, their HOA stuff. When we're done, if you have questions and you're in an HOA or condo association, I can talk to you about those issues. There is an incentive program. So it's on their website. It's been updated a little bit, but basically you can get up to $1,200 for a full replacement, $200 for a sidewalk clean out, $200 for a spot repair, etc. Oh, and permits are free. So, right. And so in the city of Santa Cruz, one nuance that's unique to them, well, there's actually two. One, they want a clean out within the sidewalk area. So the way you define the sidewalk area is generally about 5 feet back from the face of the curb, right? So say there's no sidewalk there, go about 5 feet back from that. That's considered the sidewalk area between there and the curb. Typically there's a sidewalk. They want to clean out either in that sidewalk, or if there's a mow strip within that sidewalk area, the clean out can go there. If there's an existing clean out already in place and it's of approved building materials to their standards, and it's accessible from the road and visible from the road, so in other words, no fence blocking it off, they will accept that as an approved clean out. If you go to add one in, it goes in the sidewalk. So you're tearing the concrete up, hauling away all that debris, installing the clean out, all in permits. They look at it, they say, yep, that's a clean out. And then you pour slurry, which is a concrete without the aggregates. Pour it in the cement and sand. Hardens up, pour the concrete back over that top to pass the sidewalk, you're done. Again, if there's a mow strip, they will allow us to do that. It saves homeowners a little bit of money. As you can imagine, tearing a public sidewalk is expensive. The other nuance is, in the city of Santa Cruz, and you see these in Carmel every once in a while, in fact, they're called a Carmel trap. There will be a trap, which is a U-bend in the pipe under the sidewalk or in the sidewalk area. This is a relic from back in the day when we first got indoor plumbing, but we didn't have sewer traps in our home, like under your sink. You know, the thing where you leave your earrings into it? They didn't have those. And so sewer gas from the city mains would get into the home. Methane gas, bad news. They would trap it at the property line. Now these are a problem. They collapse because about 99% of the backups at the sidewalk area in the street, they're caused by these traps. So they have to be removed. If you have one, absolutely has to be removed. Then the cleanup goes in that spot. They look like this. You'll see this metal plate. That's a little cover for it. Yeah. Now, about 90% of the time or more, it's trapped. Sometimes you'll see that, and it's an actual clay clean out. Very rare. Usually it's trapped. And again, those are the majority of the failures, majority of the problems. So if you don't have a clean out in the sidewalk area, or you've got one of these traps, it has to be removed before you get a passing grade on the lateral. You can hand that on to the buyer if the inspection is complete, but somebody's going to rip that thing out of the ground. All right, City of Watsonville. Program started July 1st of 2004. They were forcing it. They just didn't tell anybody about it. So if you asked, they'd make you go do it. When the program started, we would just make a video, turn it into them, and then 3 or 4 months later, I'd call them, hey, did you get it back? Oh yeah, it looks fine. And we started doing more of these. We started getting requests for them. And so we sent them over. I don't want to take too much credit, but we sent them over the city's report. And then they took their letterhead and put it on top of the city's letter report. It's the exact same program. The difference is with the city of Watsonville, and we'll get into that, is one, they're far more strict. And they look at every single video, they look at every single report, and they will contradict the plumber quite often. It's a scoring system, just like the city of Santa Cruz. I'll pop up a couple examples here if you need to. The scoring system, just like city of Santa Cruz, you need to be under a certain point value, just like city of Santa Cruz. Holes or other certain defects is an automatic failure. The difference is they don't make you put a clean out on the sidewalk, and we rarely find traps in city of Watsonville. The other difference with City of Watsonville is they care about the entire lateral, upper and lower, not just the part in the sidewalk and street like City of Santa Cruz. Okay. So you're inspecting the entire thing. They also have an incentive program.
Is it 1,800, 1,500 bucks? $1,500?
They charge for the permits. So that $1,500 covers the cost of permits because the permits are about $1,500 for any repairs. They want to clean out within 5 feet of the exit of the building, and they are super strict about that. So if I walk up and there's not a clean out within 5 feet of the building, and you've got your concrete here that's stamped, dyed, aggregate, and it's got your grandkids' fingerprints in it, they'll make me tear that out for the cleanup. They're very strict. Difficult to get a passing grade. Now keep in mind, same form, same kind of pipe, 2 different cities. Santa Cruz, pretty easy to pass. City of Watsonville, almost never passes. You can ask Jen, she does all these, and it's very frequent. And we constantly have to remember, what are we doing, or which city we're in, because we're going to score it based on NASCO standards, unless we know we're in a city that's far more strict. So we're going to try and go by their guidelines, because we never want to give somebody, oh, this is great. City comes back, this has failed, right? City of Watsonville reviews the report and the video to verify the plumber's findings, and will fail lateral even if the plumber passed the lateral. They also don't give you any guidance as to why it failed. They'll say, we agree this is a passing lateral. We agree this is a failing lateral. We disagree this is a failing lateral. Apply for permits, go fix it, right? And so one thing that happens with this, and this is why we do these presentations, is to warn people about this, is, and by the way, I'm not trying to make them the bad guy, just this is the reality. Hey, I had 13 points, so I have a failing lateral. Can I fix one joint, take 3 of those points away, now have a passing lateral? In theory, you do that in the City of Santa Cruz? Yeah, because the person who did the fix is going to come back and re-inspect it and pass it. You took 3 points away. City of Watsonville, you have to re-video it. Submit that video. They look at that video again, and then they could come back and go, nope, still failing. They won't tell you why. So it's very difficult to get past there. In some situations, they may require a hydrojetting or scrubbing and a re-inspection. So technically, they want to see the walls of that pipe. They want you to come in with a hydrojetter. So not a cleaning with like a roto-rooter cable. That's not what they're looking for. They want every ounce of dirt scrubbed out of that lateral. They want to see the pipe walls. They want to see the joints. That's according to the NASCO standards. They're not wrong. At first, they were enforcing it very strictly. If you turned it in and there's a little bit of fog, fat, oils, grease in the pipe, nope, go re-video it. You have to clean it all out. Hydrojetting is not cheap. You're going to look at anywhere between $600 to $2,000 to hydrojet that lateral, depending on what it's going to take. As you can imagine, some people who are trying to sell their house don't want to spend that money to clean it and then possibly have to tear the lateral that you just cleaned out. It's like washing your shoes and then throwing them in the trash. They don't want to do that, right? So it's a difficult conversation to have with people. They don't always enforce that. We've been better about it lately. Usually when we do it, we take a look and we go, you should probably clean this, and we give the homeowner an option. The reason we do that is they charge to review the video. Not only do they charge for the permits, they charge you $166 for looking at the video, and they charge you $166 every time they have to look at it. We call it a poop tax. That fee is paid by the homeowner of the City of Watsonville. This slide is outdated by about $6. It's currently $166. They issue a certificate when it's all said and done. Video inspections within the last 25 years meet the requirement. Okay. In fact, they tell people when homeowners ask them about it, they say, well, whether you're going to sell your house or not, go get the inspection done. Because here's the thing, you go get the inspection done. They've looked at it. They said it's passed. You never have to have it looked at again for 25 years. That cert from them is good for the next 25 years. If it doesn't pass and you're not selling your house, they're not going to make you do it. They don't knock the door down and make you fix your sewer, right? So in a lot of ways, it makes sense to get it done. Have it done, sit on it, plan on it, for the future and get it repaired. Lines newer than 25 years are exempt. Trying to prove that is really difficult, that it's newer than 25 years. My house was built 10 years ago. Yeah, the laterals, the old original lateral, though. It's really difficult to prove that. Nobody has records of anything. Every once in a while you get lucky and the builder, shows his permits or her permits from when they you construct your house. Okay. South Sepulveda. This is a tiny little community-owned sanitation district down in Watsonville, like College Boulevard. It's College. Where else? What's the little neighborhood?
Cutter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that little area.
Neat little sanitation district. It's owned by the community there. So you can guess that since everybody who lives there owns it, it's a little easier to get through, right? Way more relaxed. For one, if your sewer lateral enters underneath the road, South Sepulveda is responsible for it. You're responsible for what's on your property, or if you pass into your neighbor's property, you're responsible for that. But if it's under the road, that's there. We'll take care of it. So right there, that's a big hurdle. Unfortunately, most sewers out there are in awful shape. They're some of the worst we see. There's one person in their office. She's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Call her up. Hey, I need a permit. Okay, honey, I'll get you a permit. They're just great, right? Very difficult to pass. It's pretty informal. I think there's just a form you kind of fill out, notate some stuff. Very easy to work with.
Bribe them a little.
Stop it.
Just kidding.
Get us in trouble, they're recording. Okay, so those are our 4 jurisdictions. I covered that really fast, and there's a whole lot more to it. Okay, but I'm thinking we'll get into that when we get into questions. I just wanted to lay a groundwork there. Okay, so the following examples are examples of common defects. So this is a crack, right? So depending on where you're at, that'll be 2 points or just a defect that has to be repaired. This is a clay pipe VCP. These are roots, right? Tree roots. That's a picture on every Roto-Rooter's truck, right? Roots, and then there's a shoe in there somewhere. That's usually what you see. This is an offset. So what's happened here is this jurisdiction, I might say which one county, put a new main in and then hooked up to the homeowner's existing sewer, and their contractor offset the connection. That's a defect the homeowner has to fix down. Another offset. This is one of my favorite ones. So see how this pipe, this is asbestos cement pipe. This is white C900 or SDR pipe. This is green C900 or SDR pipe. Why is this pipe different from that pipe? Because the water department or AT&T or whatever was cutting a trench, cut through the sewer, did this repair. No one looks at it because they get to self-inspect. Then we go and look at it. These are real pictures we've done. Now the homeowner has to go fix what the public utility did. The great thing about City of Watsonville, though, is they go after that public utility. They make them fix it. This is a little tougher one. So if you see the little arrows I have here, what this is bacteria growing joining this pipe. You see that quite common. The problem is it's growing on something, and it's roots, tiny little root hairs growing. And you're also starting to separate here a little bit. Okay, so now next question. If you call our shop and you say, hey, I met Jennifer and Mike, I really like Jennifer. Can she come out and do an inspection at my house for my sewer? One of the questions they're going to ask you is, do you have a clean out? Okay, so what is a clean out? This is a clean out because it says clean out on it. This is a clean out from the 80s, the little dome like from Mario Brothers. There's a clean out underneath that. This is not a clean out. This is a sidewalk trap, as we talked about before. This is a clean out, okay? This is what we're looking for. This makes our life easy to do the inspection. If you don't have one of this, Jen will try to pull a toilet. Sometimes we'll go up on a roof. Really don't want to be doing that. We're hoping we find one of these. Okay. And we're almost done. We'll get into questions here. Key points to take away. And we're frozen here. See if we get out of this. Jack, what's going on? So one of the key points here is don't wait till the last minute. So all of the jurisdictions right now allow you to transfer responsibility to required repairs. It didn't used to be that way. In fact, City of Watsonville, it was that you couldn't transfer. When did it happen? August, when they changed the rules. So up until August of last year, homeowner calls, happens on my home, I need to have an inspection. market's pretty hot. I'm already in contract with the buyer. I'm closing in 3 days. Can you come do the inspection? And we laugh. Now we just tell them, you're not closing your house because we've got to get the inspection done. We've got to submit it. That's if we can get it done the first visit. You're going to have to do all the repairs that are required, and you'll probably have required repairs. Then you can transfer your property. So we're telling everybody, don't wait, please don't wait. Fortunately, realtor groups lobbied the city of Watsonville, and they've relented. Now you can transfer. I still say don't wait till the last minute, though. Really don't wait. You can have the inspection done. You can have us do the inspection. Have somebody else do the work. Just get it done. Get it done in advance. Don't wait till the last minute. If you're a buyer, you're buying a home, and the seller can't verify they've had the inspection done, can't provide you with the paperwork, the reports, feedback from the jurisdiction or whatever, get somebody out there ASAP to do the inspection. Right? You're going to want to know these things. Thanks, Zach. Okay. Are we frozen?
I want him to speak for himself. We want you to use us no matter what.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me see if I can do it from this side of here. Huh. Let me stop capping. I gotta recap. All right. It's probably my laptop. Okay, let's see if this works here. Okay. Well,
I think
Oh,
there's some,
okay, so here we go. Got it.
there were some roots growing in the computer.
That's exactly what it is. So first step on this is verify if an inspection is needed. Here's what I'm going to try and answer some of the questions I know you have. Not every home's going to need this, right? Maybe it's a new lateral, doesn't need it. You can prove that. You might be in an HOA. That's not always a get out of jail free card. It's a super complicated question depending on where you're located. But you might be in an HOA, for example, in the county of Santa Cruz, and your CC&Rs, your covenants, state that the HOA is responsible for all the private collection system. The issue is a lot of HOAs, because I work with them, are rewriting your covenant to say you're responsible for your lateral, we're responsible for everything that's shared, which is, they're legally, they can do that. You might be in the third floor of a condo building. You don't have a lateral. Okay? You give us a call, I'm going to tell you that. You don't have a lateral. You're floor 310 or unit 310. You don't have a lateral. You're exempt. You're good. So verify if it needs to be done. You might have a septic tank. You don't need a lateral inspection. Coming July 1st, you'll need a septic inspection. And I think Tom had a group about that, right? And so you'll be required to do that. You might be in some special situation where you don't need it, right? And we've gotten really good at figuring that out. Basically, I told my office, go ahead and get it on the books. I look ahead, and then I research it. We look on GIS, which is a geographic information system, to figure out whose main's in front of your house, who you drain through. We look at the house and all that stuff, and then usually I give the realtor a call and say, you don't need to do this. It's not required. You may still want to do it, it's not required. And then, as I say, in homes that are part of an HOA, or for example, Santa Cruz City, most of the time the lateral's exempt if you're an HOA. Because the city of Santa Cruz, I might have skipped over this, their jurisdiction, sanitation district's jurisdiction, stops at the back of the sidewalk. So they can't enforce anything on the private property. That's owned by the building department. So if your sewer lateral doesn't cross under their sidewalk, they have no jurisdiction. So there's no inspection. So if you're in an HOA in the city of Santa Cruz, more than likely, you're not going to have to do anything. There's a couple exceptions where one or two homes front a public street and they drain directly to the city. They're going to have to do it. Everybody else back of the property that drains into the HOA first, you're not going to have to do it. Santa Cruz County, again, check your CC&Rs. What I coach our realtor friends on is don't go to the HOA or the property manager and say, who's responsible for the inspection? They're going to say, you are. What you say is, hey, if my sewer, just ask it, my sewer were to break, who would fix that? And they're gonna go, well, us, it's in our CCNRs. We fixed Joe's last year. Cool. So you got an inspection coming. Because there's a whole ordinance in the county related to HOAs. I do those inspections. And a lot of homeowners don't have to do them. So it's case by case stuff. It almost never says in the CCNRs sewer lateral. Almost never says sewer. It might talk about private utilities, might talk about homeowners responsible for what only serves their unit, might talk about homeowners responsible for whatever's on their lot. I don't know if you've ever been in an HOA trying to figure out where your lot lines are. It's a little wild. Your realtor is your friend there, working with the property manager. We can help you out with that. We work with a lot of the property management companies in this town, the Camera, Shoreline, King Management. We have a good relationship with them. Back when these ordinances started, we reached out and said, hey, you might want to start writing some letters about how you're going to do this so homeowners don't bug you all day. You just send it out to all your homeowners. Here's how we're going to handle it. City of Watsonville, super, super complicated. Every time I talk to them about it, I get a different answer. They're trying to figure it out. The bottom line is with the HOAs, what's happened is nobody, when they wrote this ordinance, which has an HOA portion of it, understood how many HOAs are in this county. Legit, they had no idea. And I'm not picking on them, they just didn't know. To the point where the city of Santa Cruz has suspended their HOA inspections for now. They were sending letters out 2020, 2021 saying, hey, you got to get all this done. There's a list of people to call. We were gearing up to do them. And then the city said, yeah, we can't handle them. There's too many. County of Santa Cruz, all the HOAs were supposed to have every foot of their private collection system inspected by the end of last year. That didn't happen because there's only 2 people at the county to look at them. And the whole county's HOA, right? And so nobody who could do the inspection or was willing to do them could get to them all, because we couldn't get to them all. Greenline couldn't get to them all. There's only 2 other people that are willing to do them because they're massive systems and it's a pain in the neck. So that's kind of delayed. City of Watsonville got into it a little bit and said, nope, we're going to reconsider this. We watched how they started to drown. We're not going to do that. So it's on hold. They're trying to figure it out. So when they get all that figured out, we can do an updated version of it. But for now, just know it's out there. It's kind of on hold. It doesn't mean you don't have to get inspected. Verify you don't have to if you're an HOA. Okay. Other exceptions, septic systems. The new ordinance will require a passing septic inspection starting July 1st. If you didn't come to Tom's meeting last time, you hear about that, talk to him. He's got information for you on that. Scotts Valley currently doesn't have a sewer ordinance. They barely have a building official, right? It's tiny. No, I'm not picking up. They're just tiny. There's a tiny little city. They're doing their best. We passed some referendums a couple decades ago to where all of your taxes at your city goes to the state first. The cities don't have money to fix stuff. They don't have money to hire people for it. But they're working on it. Okay. Further questions. So this is my email. This is my office phone number. I used to put my cell on there. I don't do it anymore. This is my office email. This is my office phone number. Okay. So that's the entirety of the slideshow. I've got some other stuff I can show you if questions come up. But we can open it up to questions.
But if you call me, I have my cell number.
She gives it away to people all the time. Questions?
Yeah. I'm in a county. And I have a question about.
I'm sorry, say it again. I'm part of here.
I'm in a county.
You're an accountant?
In a county.
Oh, in the county. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I have a question about what is video and report. What's that? What's the video?
Yeah. So what it is if you're in the county, so we'll talk about the particular, you go to sell your house.
Right.
Okay. Triggers the requirement for the inspection. You call us, I send Jen out. First thing she's going to do is look for those cleanouts. She's going to take a sewer camera. It's a closed caption TV camera that we put down into the sewer. Okay. It's on a fiber optic push rod. She's going to send it down the cleanout if you have one. Go all the way to the county main. She's going to hit record. She's going to record that sewer. She's going to pull it back very slow. She's going to stop at every joint.
Well, it's like.
Yep. It'll show, it'll be a video of it. She'll take that video back to her office. She'll review it, fill out the report. There's a report page that the county has. I'll show you an example of that if I can make this work. See see here.
See all the stuff you make me do?
I'm literally doing all the work here. Oh, cool. Well, so this is the county report. This is a green block of digital stuff. That's unfortunate. Okay. So she'll fill out this report, she'll turn it into the county, and that's the entirety of the inspection. And then based on that video that the county sees and her report where she notates this is the type of pipe, it's ABS at 32 feet, it transitions from ABS to asbestos cement or VCP or whatever. And we can talk about the different kinds of pipe that's out there in a little bit if you want. I saw roots here, I here, whatever. Here's my recommendations. The county reviews all that. Or she looks at it, it's all in great shape. Hey, sewer looks really good, no recommendations. They review that. It gets uploaded to, oh, thank you, Dex, to, I don't dare try to show it on here, but there's a third-party site called Box, B-O-X. It's like Google Drive or Amazon Cloud Sharing or anything like that, where by magic, it goes from that computer somewhere in space, and then the county can look at it so we can share documents. And then they come back on that page after looking at that video, and they have what's called a county comments. It's a single-page document they upload, and it's going to say no work required or repairs required at. This is important. I'm glad you asked this question. Nobody ever says replace the entire lateral. So if you get an inspection done, and the plumber says, oh, you got to replace the whole thing, no point turning it all in, get another plumber out to do the inspection. Because they will say repair 32 feet, 22 feet, 47 feet. They'll call it individual spots. Because when you do the recording on the camera, that's a footage counter. So they can see, oh, the main's at 47 feet. Well, there's roots at 42 feet. Fix the roots at 42 feet, right? And so that's what will be on that page. Or add a clean out because there wasn't a clean out there. Or cleaning recommended because there's some debris in there, right? And they're concerned about it. That's what will happen on the county side if you're in the county of Santa Cruz and you have a sewer lateral that drains to the county.
Okay, so the video will show which way the line runs, out back or up.
Correct. And so the camera, exactly. So the camera that we have, one has a record, it has a color camera on it, okay? And then it has a transmitter on it. And that transmitter allows us to find the location of it, right? We turn on the transmitter and we got a little wand. Sounds like R2D2 makes all these little noises, and then you can find the thing, and we can tell how deep it is and the exact location of it. When I started in this trade, I'm going to date myself here. One person would run a giant sewer cable in the sewer, and we go out with a stethoscope on the ground and listen for the thumping, and then we dig and hope that we found it there. Now we have these $12,000 cameras that do that. That's a good question.
Modern dowsing.
Well, I can't do it. I've seen people do it. It blows my mind every time it works. I'm like, I'm a science guy. I don't know how that works, but whatever.
They call it the witching sticks.
Yeah.
Which I have. And if anybody needs that service, I can do it.
Tom can do it.
I chuckle sometimes because I'm when these guys do the video and send it off, I'm imagining a guy down in some dark room at the county building, no windows, and he's parked in front of a video monitor all day long, and all he is doing is looking at these videos of sewer lines.
That's not
Companies.
super inaccurate.
And it's some guy that's pissed off all day.
It's usually one of the early young engineers, engineer one, right? And so, hey, you've got to look at all these dirty movies before you get to go do cool stuff like bridges and things.
Okay.
And that's usually how it goes.
Good to know.
You had your hand up first, sorry.
What's driving this? Were there sewer failures?
Here, let me hand you this so everybody else can hear this. Because you're asking a very good question.
Yeah, so the question is, what's driving all this? Were there sewer failures? Was there seepage? Was there environmental toxicity? What's
Yes. So this is a statewide thing. It's the state came in early 2000s, because remember I said I've seen these in their community development and little blurbs when I go read stuff like that. It's everywhere. There's a few jurisdictions, Scott Valley, I haven't found it yet. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. And my guess is, because I haven't got a straight answer, but some state entity, probably coastal watershed, came along and said to do this. The reason being is what they're primarily concerned about is sewage leaking out of that pipe, getting into our groundwater, right? Which, when our groundwater gets sewage in it, we can't use it for drinking water anymore, right? Because when we treat sewage water, we send that to the ocean after it's treated, right? We're not to the point with technology in this county where we can send that back into the aquifers, like some states do with pre-treatment. And so we've wasted that groundwater. The other is we don't want groundwater, rainwater getting into our sewer, going to the treatment plant. That has two effects. One, the treatment levels of the plant when we get a normal rain, not like we've got over the holidays, just a normal rain, their treatment levels go up by 500%. I've run a camera down a sewer during the rain, and it was like Niagara Falls, just water gushing into the sewer. Otherwise, the sewer looked perfectly fine. But through the joints, it was just gushing water. We're losing water that should go in the aquifer, going to the treatment plant. Secondarily to all of that is, yeah, we'd like it if people's sewers didn't back up, right? City of Santa Cruz, one of their bigger concerns is that spillage, because remember, they have the traps in the sidewalk. If that trap fails and backs up, that sewage goes into the storm drain. That's a major fine from a whole lot of entities, right? So they're trying to avoid backups. Primarily, though, it's to preserve our groundwater and not have groundwater get into the sanitary sewer, right? They all talk about it in different ways, but that's really what it boils down to, is groundwater intrusion, sewage extrusion. That's primarily the reason. So that's a great question. So it's a good reason for it. It's a bummer they put it on real estate, but if you think about it, if they wanted to enforce this, they had two options. Pass a bond measure where everybody pays more taxes, and they hire contractors to go through and replace every lateral, whether it needs it or not, and then not get elected the next year. Or they can say, when you sell your house, you can't sell it until you get this done, which is easier, right?
It's much more, it's much easier politically if you do it one house at a time as it's selling, rather than just make every house sort of do their sewer lateral inspections and make the improvements. I'm guessing that's one reason why the requirement to flush your private lateral every 18 months hasn't gone into effect, because politically that would be tough to, that would generate a lot of discontent.
Yeah, we have a hard time convincing people to clean their lateral when it should be cleaned because it's backing up. Just imagine, because Jen hears this all the time. Oh, it's going to be fine. I've never had problems.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, here's the thing. Now you have to clean this for, $600 to $2,000 every 18 months. Good luck. Where there's another question over here. Yeah, go ahead.
In the city of Santa Cruz, roughly what percentage are fails?
Jen's probably going to have a better finger on that because I haven't done some in a while. I would say the vast majority in our experience is that once you get that sidewalk clean out taken care of, the rest of the lateral passes.
Almost.
Almost. Because when we look at the ones in the city of Santa Cruz, we go by our training from our certification. And the majority of the laterals in the city of Santa Cruz are clay or VCP. It's terracotta. Comes in 3-foot joints. And industry standard is there's allowable amount of movement, because I've actually constructed clay sewers. And if I'm trying to get from here to here, I've got a 45 and I have a 90. I don't have a 22 or anything else like you do in modern plumbing. So I'm going to take that joint. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to stuff it full of lead oakum, or a modern joint's going to have a rubber gasket in it. Now I've got a little bend. The joint's going to look slightly offset. City of Santa Cruz understands that. We understand that. City of Watsonville does not. If there's a lip, it's a joint. It's a failure, right? So that's why most of the city of Santa Cruz ones will pass. It's very easy to look at that and go, I could argue all day. I could get the woman who trained us in the pipeline inspections to show up in court and say, Mike's right, that's not a defect. But I'm comfortable doing that with the city of Santa Cruz. So most of them will pass if it's got that sidewalk clean out. The majority of the work we're doing in city of Santa Cruz is adding that sidewalk clean out and removing the strap. Every once in a while, you get some that are in really bad shape.
And it kind of goes neighborhood by neighborhood, like an older neighborhood, homes built in the 20s and the 30s and the 40s.
Beach flats.
Most of them, yeah, like the west side above Mission Street, below Escalona. Most of those houses have the traps and the sidewalk, and need the Seabright areas too, beach area. really problematic in some locations. So part of this is about aging infrastructure. Which,
And also the soil conditions, right? So one thing to keep in mind too with the city is a private property side, it's not part of the ordinance. The bulk of the issues we see in the city of Santa Cruz are in someone's yard, right? That's where all the problems are. Not part of the inspection, doesn't fail it. It could have holes all through it. It could be unapproved building material. It could be someone laid a series of socks in the ground. We notate it. We say, hey, this is a bunch of socks that they're running sewer through. This is not good. You're not required to fix it. The part that covered passed, right? Jen will tell you, she sees it all the time. You're like, wow, this is really bad. City look perfect. Soil conditions also play a role into how pass fail. So if you have soils that have heavy clay, we've had a drought for how long? What happens when you soil that's heavy clay dries up, it shrinks. And so that pipe's got all this void all the way around it, and it just does this. Capitola down there, where it floods all the time, the laterals get wiped out. If you're like, what's the, like Modesto Street, that kind of little neighborhood right in there. What's the other one they all drain in the backyard?
Where?
In Capitola.
Oh, Riverview, Gilroy Street.
Those are all in really bad shape because the ground moves so much over there with all the water. You get into city of Watsonville by the bridge community, that all those sewer laterals were constructed by Granite Construction. Not a single one of them has ever failed. And they look perfect. They look like they went in yesterday. Well, they hauled all the soil out of there because it's a floodplain. They brought in good soil that's well compacted, laid the sewers on top of it. They're not moving. But the ones that somebody's cousin put in 1960, right, because he had a tractor, those are falling apart. So again, to answer your question, a small percentage of the ones in the city are failing. Usually the ones down by beach flats are in pretty bad shape. It's right by the ocean, a lot of sand, pretty shallow, a lot of movement, right? Upper West Side, not so much. Seabright neighborhood, 50-50.
Yeah.
Yes.
I have two questions. First is, do you have a general price range for what it costs to actually have a clean out installed?
Yeah, I can give you a ballpark.
And then the second question is, in regards to as is sales transactions, then if you have a buyer is wanting to buy as is, but you still have to do this lateral clean out business or fix things, you can still transfer that?
Let me ask that question first.
Okay.
So you're selling your house, you have a buyer who says, sight unseen, I don't care, right? This is a year ago, that was the case, right? You still have to get the inspection done. The inspection's done, cool, no big deal. If the inspection's not done, technically by the wording of the ordinance, and I can't, as a licensed contractor, advise anybody to violate an ordinance, you should get the inspection done. Do people not? Absolutely. Do we show up to do an inspection for the buyer to say, oh, I'll get it taken care of, it's 90 days later, and then we go, oh, bad news for you, you should have had this done ahead of time. Does that happen? Yes. Do lateral police show up to your door and arrest you if you didn't get it done? No. Ethically, should you do it? Yes. Right. So if you ask us to shade on that or hide anything, we'll just go call somebody else. Sorry, we can't do that. That's why we work with Tom, because he'll never ask us to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you've got a buyer in hand and they're sight unseen, just get the inspection done. Just get the inspection done, and then you're covered.
One of the reasons why they made it point of sales is if you have a real estate agent representing a buyer and a real estate agent representing the listing or the seller, then it brings their liability into the process too. So everybody's on the line if something doesn't get done appropriately, and then after the fact it comes back. And so I mean, Mike's right. What I would say is, in most cases, even if it's an as-is sale, most buyers in that situation are going to want to know what it's going to cost to fix it. So if you were listing your house, you did the property in the sewer lateral inspection, and there were some issues, what you probably want to do is have estimates for repair. So that, and usually they're pretty close to what it's going to cost. I mean, Mike has done a number of estimates for making repairs. Other companies have too. And you share that information with the buyer as part of that as-is sale. They sign off on that knowing that that's something that they're going to have to be responsible for down the line so that there's no surprises.
And I'm guessing your contract is void if you violated an ordinance, regardless if it's as is anyway, right?
And the one way or another, the seller needs to do the property inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all they're responsible for. If they can either choose to fix it or they can choose to transfer the responsibility, as long as the buyer is willing to transfer the responsibility. You do not want to wait until you're in the middle of the escrow to do the sewer lateral inspection, find out you have a problem, and then you've lost a lot of leverage in that situation with your buyer.
To answer your second question, as far as a ballpark for just getting a clean out installed, what I tell people when they ask is somewhere between $800 and $10,000 is usually how that's going to cost. I'm not trying to be funny, well, kind of a little bit, but like what's going to dictate the cost of doing any kind of work is going to be, what do I have to dig through to get to it, right? Am I tearing up concrete? Am I putting back stamped, dyed aggregate concrete? Am I digging up asphalt on Bay Avenue that's going to be this thick, and then there's going to be a layer of concrete underneath that I have to put all that back and dowel the concrete? Meanwhile, I have traffic and I'm traffic control. Or am I working in an alleyway down Midtown and it's a super easy job? These jobs are all different. They're all different. Typically, if we show up, you don't have a clean out, we can't get the inspection done, we need to add a clean out to do it. It's in dirt, I don't know, $2,500, sometimes less. I just gave a bid yesterday for like $1,500. And a lot of times we tell people if they're fit enough or whatever, or they got, a teenager in the house, like tell them to dig that up on Saturday. We'll come out Monday and put one in for, $600-700, right?
Putting a basic clean out in a section of sidewalk where you have to jackhammer one little square of sidewalk, put the clean out in, and then read it. That usually, in my experience, runs $2,500 to $3,500. As long as there's nothing odd or unusual.
Yeah, for the sidewalk cleanouts now, if it's not deep, we're up to $4,250 now. The prices on everything have gone up because of the cost of concrete labor. So that's right in there. If you're asking about the city of Santa Cruz sidewalk cleanouts, I might have missed that because I'm a little slow, but if that's what you're asking about, yeah, $3,500, $4,200 somewhere there.
We had a couple of people back here, Jason.
Yes.
And we had a question and this filled them right after.
That was a really good question, by the way, about, what happens if you have a buyer in hand, because that comes up a lot.
I had two questions, Mike. I heard per jurisdiction that there's an approved list of plumbers that can do this work for you. Not every plumber in the phone book can do this work. I was just kind of curious from my own knowledge banks. How did plumbers get on that list to be approved for that jurisdiction?
So yes, in each of the jurisdictions, there's a approved list of plumbers. It started out with who pulls permits in town. And then I got dwindled down and dwindled down and dwindled down, and contractors have been kicked out of the program, either because of their poor quality control on their street work, no shoring for their trenches, or cars were getting in accidents where they're doing the street work, they kicked them out of the program. Or because of the shenanigans, like not pulling permits for the work, so it's been dwindled down. So to get on the list to do the inspections, you have to be certified by this agency. It's an outside agency. It's not an easy certification to get. So you have, first of all, you have to be certified. Now, the owner of the company can have the certification and sign off on the reports. Fine. I don't know that the cities know they're doing that, but technically that's not accurate. That's one way to do it. And then as far as the required work is concerned, it used to be they would let any plumber who does work in the city of Santa Cruz or county of Santa Cruz open up the street, because there was a shortage of contractors who could do that work. And a lot of us are legacy contractors who've been doing that work, generations back of the current inspectors. Like, we taught them how to do their job, so they're like, yeah, we'll let you do it. They've changed that, and now you have to have an additional license above your plumbing license. C42, 36. We have a general A, so we can do it. City of Watsonville, you need a special licensure, so they've become more strict on who can do what, which I think is to the benefit of the homeowner, because you're getting someone who knows how to do this work versus, well, I've always done it, so I can do it. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious how they ramped themselves up to get that certification, because I had a buddy who said, oh, I'm really going to go for this, and he bought all the expensive camera equipment. He got denied, and he was in shambles because I paid a lot of money for his cameras, and they said no. Every jurisdiction said no to him. He was devastated, but he really wasn't qualified anyway. So
Right.
yeah.
People have asked me, they said, hey, quit Bellows, come be in partnership with me. We'll provide all the equipment, Bellows certification. I'm like, okay, so you're a home inspector, right?
Yes.
What's your insurance?
Oh, it's $1 million, insurance plus bond plus liability.
So imagine if the work you did was tens of thousands of dollars and you screwed up once, right? It's super expensive liability, right? So I would never go out and do this on my own. And so, I feel bad for your buddy because that camera equipment is not cheap, but I can't imagine what as an individual, what his liability would be through the roof, because as soon as his insurance company understood, like, oh, you screwed this up, you're getting sued by the buyer of this home who's now going to replace their sewer because you missed something. Holy smokes, right? So yeah, you have to have a special certification. Like I said at the beginning, it was, well, we know you, go for it, right? And then tighten it up.
And then my second question was, do we know why Watsonville is so strict, or why they're so irritable? Like, it seems kind of counterintuitive. Like, they should work with homeowners and plumbers. Why are they so irritable?
Well, they're not irritable. They're just strict about it. To be honest with you, they are the only jurisdiction that actually does it correctly. They're stricter than the standards, right? But every other way they do it, the cleaning of the lateral prior, that's in the rule book. They grade a lot stricter. Other than that, they're the easiest ones for us to go to because we know what to expect. If I go into the county and I say, I'm looking at your thing, because if I'm doing this for you, you're standing over my shoulder going, is it going to pass? Is it going to pass? Is it going to pass? And anytime I go, ooh, because I had a cramp in my leg, they think I'm going, oof, about their sewer, right? And they're freaking out. I'm trying to send them away, right? It's so unpredictable. I don't know what to tell them. Let me look at a bigger screen. Well, I don't know, because I don't want to say, oh, it's going to pass and then it doesn't, or I don't want to get them worked up and they lose sleep over it because the county's going to take 10 days to come back with their findings, and it turns out it was fine. Oh, Mike had me all worked up. I'm like, I don't know. We'll see what comes back. With the city of Watsonville, we definitely know what to expect. We've gotten to the point where they don't take any of ours back because we figured out what they're looking for. We try to be as strict as they are. I just feel that they're stricter than they need to be, but they're not ridiculous about it. They're not out there gunning, let's see if I can spend this person's money and make their life miserable. They're very strict on their standards on street repairs, how the work gets done. But again, they're doing it by the book. As a company that has an A, I have no problem with that because we do it by the book. It bothers me when we go, and I'm going to complain a little bit here. Okay. So it bothers me when I go out and we bid work and we lose it to somebody 30% less. And then I drive by the work they're doing a year later and the asphalt's doing this. Problem. We're doing it right because we have a reputation. And so the people at the streets department will call us, hey, your T-cut should have been wider. You have to go rip up the road. I'll go back up and rip it up. They don't call anybody else because half the time they don't know who did it, right? So I appreciate they're enforcing professionalism down there. They don't do that in the other jurisdictions. So in a sense, it's better. It's harder on the homeowner. I get that, right? Because if you're in the county, probably going to skate by. The city, pretty good chance you're going to get by. South Puentes, they're going to be easy on you, but it's going to fail anyway because it's so bad over there. But at least from a professional standpoint, I know what to expect with the city of Watsonville. I know their paving standards. They're going to hold everybody to it. I know that their pipe inspection standards are going to hold everybody to it. Everybody who puts pipe in the ground, you have to backfill and pour slurry over the road before you re-inspect. Because when you do that, you can collapse your new pipe. They make everybody do it the same. And if you don't, you're out. So that I appreciate that as a contractor. As a homeowner, I would have the opposite feeling. Like, oof, I want the most lenient, easy to get by thing because I want to sell my house for as little as possible. Right? I get it. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for this. What would you be keeping in mind regarding these ordinances when doing a new construction ADU in Santa Cruz County?
Good question. So if you're in the county of Santa Cruz and you apply for a permit that hits plan check, right? So over the counter would be a water heater. Sometimes a furnace is over the counter or whatever. You're adding an addition. If you're remodeling your bathroom that's beyond repair, replace, repair and kind, adding an ADU, you have to have this inspection done.
Where does that fall in the timeline to get, in order to get your permit?
So it used to be you'd have to get the inspection done prior to your final inspection. It would hold up the final. What we're seeing now is it seems like we're doing the inspection. They're not even broken ground sometimes. So it really depends. That would be a better question for building department or your planning department. And the reason I say that is like I'm getting conflicting answers, but I would tell you somewhere in that process, as soon as it hits plan check, it's going to trigger the requirement for your lateral to be inspected, right? So County of Santa Cruz, all of them have loosened their restrictions about ADUs. So for example, City of Santa Cruz, we did an ADU for a gentleman in the Circles, and he had to put in a second meter. So we had to freeze, tap, add a second meter in the sidewalk for his ADU. Then we had to brand a whole separate sewer out the middle of the road for him. We completed that project, and about a week later, SB 18-9 came in, and Steve said, no, you can tie in your existing sewer now, right? So they've loosened that up, right? Same thing in the county, they've loosened up a little bit. They still make you tie into the sewer outside of the house. You can't tie it under the house, inside the structure, all those things. But you do have to do an inspection. The standards are the same in the county when they look at it for a plan check or if it's for time of sale. And that's another way to enforce this ordinance, to get the sewers inspected. You want to add a room, get your sewer inspected. You want to add an ADU, get your sewer inspected. There's an additional thing to it though. If you add an ADU and you're trying to use your lateral, they want to make sure that that lateral can accommodate the DFUs, drainage fixture units, toilets 3. Remember what I was telling you about this? So drainage, toilets 3, showers 4, et cetera, et cetera. You want to make sure it's the right size pipe that can handle that. And it has enough slope, everything else. You add this ADU, now everything's back up.
Do the, regarding the 20-year video inspection, does that still hold, or since you're now adding new drains to that?
I haven't read anything that contradicts that, so theoretically it should hold. Hey, I just bought this place. It has this existing inspection where it passed. I'm adding an ADU. Here's my get out of jail free card. But again, we don't deal with that end of it so much. We do the inspections for the plan checks and we do ADUs and all that. But most of the time, that's worked out by your designer, your architect, and you've already figured that out. You're like, hey, Mike, I need an inspection. Those are great questions. Are we good?
So it seems to me like as a homeowner, knowing all this information, even if they're not going to sell, that it would be good to know about their property and have an inspection done. So if they've had an inspection done because maybe they bought 3 years ago when it first started, how often would you suggest that they continue to have it inspected or cleaned out?
It depends on what came up during that first inspection. So keep this in mind. People, with the exception of City of Watsonville, people are only going to do repairs that they're required to do to sell the house. Okay. So you've got a sewer that's 60 feet long. In the county, you're required to fit a joint at 2 foot. It's an old asbestos cement sewer. The whole sewer is the same age. It's all in the same soil conditions. This one failed. What's your confidence that the rest of it's in good shape for the next 10 years? Right? Because they're doing the minimum required repair. Understandably, right? There's nothing wrong with that. They're doing exactly what they're required to do. They're not fixing anything above and beyond that. So it's going to depend on what the nature of the repairs were, how much was repaired, what was done. who did the inspection. So if you had a passing inspection and, Jen comes out, she goes, oh, this is great. It's all plastic. Don't worry about it. Unless you see AT&D doing work in your street, then you might have a question. Get it inspected right away so you can have those guys cut you a check while they're still down the block, right?
Yeah.
Am I making up any of
No.
this? It's legit.
Not at all.
Happens all the time.
He sounds funny, but it's actually real.
If it's an old VCP, which is clay, joints every 3 feet, and you're in some of these neighborhoods that I red flagged for you, I mean, I don't know, get it looked at occasionally just to know, kind of head off some stuff. Make sure you have a clean out outside. It's got a relief valve, so if it does back up, it spills out outside, not in your nice new bathroom. It's hard to answer that question. There's so many different parameters. I will say this, if it's part of the ordinance, we do the inspection for free for certain groups like Tom's group. If it's just on a whim, we kind of make a decision like, okay, yeah, they got to clean out. We can do this for free, or they're an existing customer, or they're here tonight. We'll do it for free or whatever. Sometimes we charge for it because sometimes it's not required. It's on a whim. We know we're not going to get work from them because we look at the history and they never have us do any work, but they have us out to look at stuff all the time. We're going to charge a fee, that kind of thing. So you got to do that economic benefit there. I'm not really answering your question. I apologize. It's too hard. It just depends on the scenario.
One thing I would say is, I think if somebody was considering buying a house and had the specific agenda of after they bought it, they knew they wanted to add an ADU or they knew they wanted to do additions to the house, it makes sense to me to pay very close attention to what the inspection showed on the sewer lateral, because that, it may have passed then, but there may be further expensive requirements based on what was done. So I think you have to, the level for buyers, both with this and with the septic ordinance, the level of due diligence has just gone up. I think it's really have to look closer.
If I could add to that too, that's a great point. Let's say we just went and looked at one today, and I looked at one last week for a customer. We'd already done the inspection for it, but he couldn't remember where the sewer was. He's doing this massive hardscaping in his backyard where the sewer is. He calls up, hey, so you guys looked at my sewer, right? Like, yeah, it was like 4 years ago. And he's like, well, what's the condition of it? Hold up the video. Oh, it's all plastic. It's all this. Okay. Do you remember how deep it is? Yeah, it's 2 feet here. It's about 5 feet here. It runs this way. But can I come out and look at it to make sure and show you where it's at so you don't hit my sewer? Yes. That's a good time to get it inspected. I looked at one today down in Watsonville. They're doing a bunch of like stone. They're going to put in the polymeric sand to bond it all in. And it's an old clay sewer. Ma'am, replace it. Because I guarantee as soon as that's done, it'll fail. And then we'll be out there ripping that out for you. Right? So those are good occasions to, along with what he's saying, that's a good metric to use. Like if I'm going to cover it up and it's going to be expensive to get to it, let's get rid of it. Let's take care of it. That's a good time to expect it.
Question, Mike, are there any technologies out there now or on the horizon that will not require a tear out?
There are currently, some are better than others. Okay. So old school, dig it up, bed the trench properly, lay it in, backfill the property, that will last forever until AT&T hits it. Next method is trenchless. And this is the one, we have this, a lot of people have it. Everybody thinks it's a godsend. You still have to dig 2 holes. It's not trenchless. There's going to be at least 2 trenches, typically 3 or 4. That's where, this is where the sewer starts. That's where the sewer ends. At a minimum, you're digging a hole there and a hole here. Send a galvanized aircraft cable up the pipe. It hooks up to a hydraulic ram on one end, and it's bonded to a new sewer pipe that's flexible, the SDR11, the polybutylene pipe, and you pull it through the old, it breaks the old pipe into this place. You don't want to use that if the sewer's technically less than 3 feet, because it'll do this through the earth, because there's left earth below it, then there's not enough on top of it to keep it from what's called mulling up. It'll bow. You can get away with it about 2, depending on the soil conditions. You don't want to do it if there's a smiley face in it, because you'll just take the old path with smiley face returns. It's still not super ideal. Then they've got pipelining. There's
there's two kinds, well, multiple kinds, but there's two kinds of pipelining. There's anybody can buy the equipment for about 60K, go out tomorrow and do it. And then there's the kind that municipalities use. That's about a $200,000 investment for the equipment. And you need to be doing massive projects to get your investment back. When I started at Bellows, they had anybody could do it, 60K. We quit using it right away because we realized it was problematic. You can't service that lateral. It's just a sock that's blown in. And what'll happen is somebody will service it because there's supposed to be a sign on there. They don't. And then the guy with the cable pulls it back, rips the liner out of there, or they hydrogen it to clean it, and then cut it, or offsets keep moving. And now I've seen this before where they lined it and there was an offset like this. Well, it kept shifting, and in about a year and a half, it was, instead of a 4-inch pipe, it was a 2-inch pipe. We don't use it because we want to warranty our work. There's various ways of patching. We have stuff called pipe patch. It's like an epoxy resin that we send in, and we can patch 2-foot sections of the pipe. So let's say we dug up in your yard, and that's easy, but you've got stamped dyed concrete with an aggregate finish with the grandkids' fingerprints in it. Also, my thing in and patch that from out here without tearing that up, right? Those are common methods. Depending on the jurisdiction, if you have roots, you can just hydrojet those away, which is weird to me because that didn't fix anything, but city allows it, city of Watsonville allows it. That's your general. Does that? Okay.
I just wanted to add on to Mike's point, what a lot of people forget, and I've heard these scenarios, is they hire someone to do the trenchless method. Oh, great, let's do it. What they don't realize is there's your gas line running right next to your lateral, and it creates problems because you don't want to damage a gas line under pressure.
Oh, yeah.
So, and Mike's team is really, really good about, I'd love to do trenchless for you, but guess what? We're not going to disrupt that gas line, so we have to hand it.
That's a great point that I left off. Another good example, there's a contractor in town that was doing trenchless up off Emmeline area. He hit a water main, it blew up the entire road and flooded 4 houses. So there's reasons you can't always do it. You're supposed to pothole utilities that you cross so you don't hit them. Cost money, you won't win the bid, so we're just going to do that, and then we blow up water main. So we're very conservative. We're probably too conservative, to be honest with you, when we won't do it. But it's just easier to lose a job than to like rebuild 4 houses, or have to be the cause of the San Bruno, right? Because you hit something.
The short answer is it's applicable in certain situations.
There you go. She got it right.
Dax, are there any checklists from the? What's the approximate cost of the camera inspection?
So if it's related to sewer ordinance and you're the seller, we're doing it for free. The reason being is you're working with Tom. The other is a lot of people are longtime customers. And then the third reason, I'm going to be honest, it gives us the chance, if it's a failing lateral, to be the first one to bid the work. Right? Because Jen shows up and she's super likable. So they're going to want to give her the work. So it's an opportunity to estimate work.
What if you're not going through Tom though?
Then forget it.
So when these ordinances started, we were doing them free for everybody. And then what we realized is I don't know how to say this. There are real estate groups and agents who are on the happy side of the ledger, and there's agents who are on the unhappy side of the ledger. And I don't want to be associated with those folks. So every time they call, a call gets booked, and then I make a phone call. Hey, I'm sorry, my office, because I don't want my office to answer questions about stuff. They're just going to book a call, right? Because I don't need them to know who, whatever. And I just call and say, you know what, we're going to have to charge for this. Right? Because that way I don't insult the real estate agent. I don't insult them. It just gets us out of being associated.
What would that inspection be?
About $500.
$500? Okay, so that price is down.
We've had to up that cost because these are labor intensive.
No, I understand. I'm not.
No, yeah.
Anyway, I'm just asking the actual question. This has to be done when you sell the house.
Correct. It's triggered.
And it's only from, as you indicated there, from the trap in Santa Cruz, from the trap to the sewer connection in the road.
City of Santa Cruz is the section of the sewer, the lower lateral, that's in the public right of way. Typically, that's from the back of the sidewalk, you like tie it in the street.
In the house I have, the sewer that sewer trap that you're discussing, that's sitting on the front end of the sidewalk, close to the road,
To the curb.
to the curb. So the inspection is from that spot to the sewer.
Back of the sidewalk. So in that case, it would go through the trap out to the middle of the road.
To where?
It would go through the trap.
Yes,
So we try to get that section inspected if we can, or we have to tell you if there's a section we
Right.
couldn't inspect out to the road,
out to the road.
out to the middle of the road. with
Not anything to do with from there to the house.
That's not part of the ordinance, so we don't inspect it unless someone asks us to. So if it's a buyer and they ask us to, and we're working for them, yeah, sure, here's what you're seeing. You know, here's what it looks like.
It is the only way, and again, I'm not. How do I say this? Let's assume that you have what I just described, where you have the trap that in the sidewalk next to the curb.
Yes.
On the other side of the sidewalk, about, let's say, 3 feet away, there's a yard.
Uh-huh.
Could you put the cleanout valve in that area of the yard and not have to put it in the sidewalk? Or are you bound by the ordinance to put that in the sidewalk?
Let me make sure I'm following, okay? And I'll give you a couple scenarios. You've got street, curb, sidewalk. We need to add a cleanout.
Right.
Goes in the sidewalk, tear up the sidewalk, put it there. Street, curb, mow strip, sidewalk. We can put it in the mow strip.
Say that again.
So I've got a street, I've got my curb, and I have a sidewalk. Goes in the sidewalk.
Okay.
Street, curb, undeveloped or mow strip between the curb and the public sidewalk. I can put the cleanout in the mow strip.
Between the curb
and the sidewalk. Right.
I got how it works.
And can you put it into where the trap was?
Well, the trap has to be removed.
Right.
And in your case, you're saying your trap lid that we showed you is right here's the curb and it's right up here. That trap is under the curb gutter.
Right.
So the curb gutter is getting ripped out to get to it. It's about this deep, the curb and gutter. It's a big V. And then we're putting the clean out mid of the sidewalk because that riser and the Christie box that hides it, if you can avoid it, they don't want you to have the rim of that thing be along the seam, the seam of the concrete, right? The expansion joint, right? Because it's a weak point. So yeah, you wouldn't be putting it right by the curb, unless there's something, water meters in the way or whatever. But typically they want you to back up. So take that trap out, back up, so you're centered in the sidewalk, and that's where you put the clean out and drop your Christie box inside that.
And if I follow your line of discussion, even if the inspection shows there's no problem, because that clean out box is there, they want that replaced when they sell the house.
The trap. They want the trap removed and a clean out installed in its place.
Even if there's no problem with
Correct.
lateral.
If you have a trap, it's an automatic failure.
I seem to recall some situations where you can't get the camera through the trap to inspect the distance between the middle of the string where the water main is, or the sewer main is, and where the trap is.
Correct.
So sometimes you need to remove the trap before you can tell whether there's further damage within the lateral that the homeowner owns to the middle of the street. So sometimes it's a two-part process.
It doesn't happen often, but it seems like it's happened to Tom a few times. I feel bad about it. I'm not kidding. It's happened. I can come to memory, and it's probably the few times that happened. The reason I want this trap removed is because they fail, right? They come apart, and that's why everything backs up right there. That camera is a fiber optic push rod. It's narrower than my pinky, and you're pushing it out. It's a $10,000 camera. You'll kink, and then you just got to throw it done, right? And so, like, you'll hit these joints and it won't go through. Most of the time you get through. But he's right. Sometimes that's got to go to even, I did one last week. Hey, that's got to get out and I can't get through it.
How available is your company to perform one of these?
We have pretty good availability for it, especially right now because the market has slowed down, right? I mean, we do all this other stuff, but we keep availability for this. Jen does the bulk of them.
And so, probably couldn't get out to you this week, but I bet we could find the availability for her next week.
What happens if you have a video of a company that did this? Can you look at that video and determine whether or not repairs have to be made?
I can look at it, but I won't certify it. I won't sign off on it.
I'm not asking that. I didn't ask
Oh,
you.
just look at it and say, hey, yeah.
Yes, can you verify this needs a repair, that joint needs to be replaced, that sort of thing?
Depending on the quality of the video, yeah. So when you do these, so the sewer camera, it's, I don't know, about that big around.
Right.
When you do these, you're required to put what's called a skid, so it puts it in the center of the pipe. Sometimes people do them, it's laying on the bottom of the pipe.
Yeah.
The problem with that debris builds up. Also, any defect is gonna look worse because of the fisheye perspective. So a little lip like this looks like this. A little bit of water here, it looks like it's deep. So oftentimes it makes it look worse. And so sometimes we'll tell people like, yeah, I just did it. I couldn't get my skid in there. I had to go without the skid. If you'll let me put a clean out in, I can come back with my skid, fit it down the pipe. It'll probably pass. And I'm not wrong in saying most of the time it does once we get a skid in there. Because you're up above the water, you're like, oh, that sag is sag. You know, the offset is just a little bit, right? So depending on the quality, I'm happy with that. Based on what I'm seeing, yeah, absolutely. And again, anybody here, you get a free one, whether it's ordinance or not. Well, yeah, you're working with Tom's. You're here tonight. We'll come look at it for you. As long as you don't have to pull a toilet to do it.
Just a short question.
Ask her.
They'll make me do the toilet.
How long does the county require to get back to you after they examine the video?
So in the county of Santa Cruz, they say they will take between 2 and 10 business days. So this time of year, it's pretty fast. When the market's really busy and it's hopping, it can be up to 10 days.
Yeah.
And then you got to think furlough Friday, every other Monday if the county is a holiday. No, but legit, it is, right? There's a holiday every other Monday. They're not working. When the big rainstorm hit, you weren't getting any of these looked at because it was all hands on deck for them. They had to go, is this house habitable? Right? Same thing when the fires happened, right? So, but right now it's pretty fast. It gets really busy for them, it slows down.
And that's why all these kinds of things that are informational in nature and part of disclosure is proactive. That's the key. You don't wait till you're in escrow or the day before you're going to go on the market. So yeah, the county, in my experience, they've been pretty good. It's probably at this point in time won't take 10 days, probably be more like 5 days.
Real quick, Mike, what would you do if you showed up at a home, no clean out outside, downstairs there's no toilet, Jen comes up and it's a 2-story where you have to have a 30-foot ladder to get up on the roof to run the camera. So what do you do when you're like, there's nowhere to run a camera?
So here's what happens. We're not going to get on a 2-story roof for that. We're not pulling a toilet on a 2nd story because it's hard enough you know this, it's hard enough on the 1st floor to get that camera through that old piping without kicking her camera. We're not going to, sorry. One, you use, Jen's going to laugh because she knows this is true. Use intuition. You walk up and go, there's a clean out there. If you let me dig it up, I'll find it. Right? Because you just know where they are, where they should be. You crawl under the house, you look for where it's exiting the foundation. I said, hey, give me this much money, we'll dig this up and put a clean out in there for you. Or it's probably there, here's a shovel, I'm gonna go eat lunch. And you come back and they look, they found a clean out that was buried where it should be.
So it's like process elimination and Jen knows if anything's
Yeah, or she'll call me and I've been building houses since I was 16. I can tell you where your house is. Give me a picture of a house, I tell you. It's not hard, it's just plumbing, right? It's not rocket science. So yeah, there's gonna be a clean out there, or should be, depending on the age of the house. But that clean out in the front of the house has been code since there's been indoor plumbing, right? They're all there. We find them all the time. They're just buried, right? So you look in the right places. Bridge community, those houses were all built on certain patterns. So depending on the pattern of the house, I'll know where the clean out's gonna be. Some of them it's in your little garden, bricked in garden box. Dig in there. Some of it's left of this 2 bay windows right here, right? There's some patterns. So you'll generally know. So you crawl the house, look for it.
It's been a few years.
Sometimes it's just a shot in the dark. and you take your probe and you're like, well, I got lucky today. It was there, you know. Usually you can find it though. Yeah, you'll figure out a way to do it.
Like mental.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But yeah, there's generally a way to figure that out. That doesn't happen that often. Second story.
With a slab downstairs.
Yeah.
It's all office and bedrooms, no toilet. Second story, tile roof, no clean out, and they're asking me, and I don't know what to tell you about Mike's on the way, and if anyone could figure it out, but everyone's scratching their head, and you can't crawl and leave because it's on
Right.
slab. So literally everyone's scratching their head. I always thought, I need to ask Mike, like, literally, what would you do? Like,
I don't want to give all my secrets away because I gotta have something that she doesn't know yet. I can say I'm teaching her. Yeah, there's usually a way.
These are all the kinds of things, we're used to flipping a switch, the lights come on. We turn the faucet, the water comes on. We flush the toilets, it goes somewhere. And, most of us don't give a lot more thought about it. I think that those days are numbered where we can't not pay attention.
Mhm.
I think it's going to keep coming up with more frequency that we have to, septics. I mean, it's not unusual to go out and have somebody has poured a driveway over the top of their septic tank. They have no idea where it is. They have no cleaning up. They don't know where the leach field is. That's not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
I have a question. As far as whether or not we have a clean out, is there a sink clean out versus a sewer clean out?
Yeah.
Because we have one on the outside on the wall.
Yep.
That's the sink.
Yeah, so that's great because my office goes, hey, do you have a clean out? They go, yes. And then we show up and we're like, no. That is something that's about this big.
Right.
Sometimes you can fish that thing through there. I know there are companies that do it every single time. We don't do it with our cameras. We'll put it in, and if we feel resistance, done. Because that's a $10,000 to $12,000 camera. That goes down, then Jen has to take her iPhone on a string and send it down the sewer to do it. So the other thing you see is if it's cast iron,
Then he has my neck.
really damages the sewer. Right? And I know companies are able to do it because, oh, well, so-and-so got it done. Cool, maybe his camera's smaller. Maybe his boss doesn't know that he's doing this and he hasn't inked one yet, doesn't know better. Maybe they got lucky. Generally, that doesn't work out. If it's plastic, you have a better chance of it working. If it's low down where your vent screens are, that's probably a straight shot right into your building drain. If it's up about this high, it's going to do this. And you're not here. It used to be when Radio Shack was here, I bought these little transceivers. This is when I had to find septic tanks. And I'd flush it and race outside with the receiver to try to track it. But I've not found those online yet anywhere. But that's a handy thing too, as long as you don't clog the sewer up with it. If I ever find those again, we'll just do that, flush it and find the sewer that way. You can't video it, but you can find the sewer.
Like Joe and Yvonne, who just left, asked me on the way out whether you ever find wedding rings in the sewer lateral.
It would take too long for me to find it, and then Dax would have to figure out how to make it show up on here. Yes, I have videos of it. We did an inspection for the laundromat there on Cardiff, and when I showed the guys at the shop the video, they were crawling over each other because they all wanted to do the repairs because there had to have been about $100 in quarters in that sewer. The dental offices, we used to work for dentists, and we do work, the low income, we would help them out. Their sewers are full of like little gold flakes and like instruments and all kinds. The stuff you find down there's wild. Rats, videos of rats. She loves when she sees that. Yeah, wedding rings, all kinds of stuff.
Okay, good.
It's neat. There's money in there. Money in the sewer.
That's how he keeps me going. He's like, Jen, there's gold. Really?
Yeah, go dig it up, Jen.
Well, great. Well, thank you all for coming. It's everything you ever wanted to know about sewer laterals that we're afraid to ask, but appreciate you all being here. If you have follow-up questions, Mike and Jennifer are extremely helpful. If you want to call me, I'm happy to give you some guidance as well. And I hope we see you again at some of our future talks. And if you do have suggestions for
subject matter. I do really appreciate hearing from you and we'll try and accommodate. And if any,
Jen's giving out her card. Tom has my contact. You saw it on a thing. I'm gonna set some cards